What is happening out there, rotoscouts basketball fans? Welcome to the show, gang. Had to make sure the microphone was on there real quick. Every now and then I forget to turn it on, as you guys have no doubt seen in the past. Little Thursday show, starting up a couple minutes late. Had to get the Sims done. Computer's just not cooperating with me since sometime yesterday. Some kind of, I guess, a Windows update ran. Came in and my computer was, completely at the login screen, so it had reset. And ever since then, like getting into File Explorer when I have to pull up like a window to open a file, save a file's been a little slow, and like clicking download in Chrome has been slow. I don't know if it's because of the Windows update. I don't know if it was a Chrome update that's screwing it up, but cost me last night. Somebody in the chat, Alan Margus, saying got Towns right, but bad chalkier plays, of course. Not his night. Not a great night for Cujo. It looks like I'll join that club as well. I had just a few lineups in last night, but when I went to upload them it was 6:59. Click on the thing. First time I've ever run into this. The dialog box on FanDuel just came up blank. Nothing. Computer was not frozen. I could click to other windows, but that specific function was frozen. So I ended up with locked train of lineups. Fortunately, it wasn't a full slate of lineups. It was the right night for something like that to happen. But had to late swap into a bunch of, split those positions up for the later games afterward, and ended up with Kevin Huerter and his 0.0 in every lineup. He ended up, I don't know if he scratched late or he got hurt very early in the game. I think he got hurt very early in the game. I didn't watch that game. But yeah, not a great night for me. But the point of that story was just some computer issues today, just slowing me down a little bit. So that's why we started a couple minutes late, but welcome everybody to the show. We got a little four-gamer on deck tonight. Looks like an interesting one. A couple pieces of value already on the board, couple key absences on the board. Luka Doncic ducking my Knicks. Doesn't want to have to try and score against OG. Can't blame him. Seth's here just walking in the door. The big LFG. I echo that. Phil Still's here. Cujo was the first one in the house again. Day's going pretty well here. It's been a quiet kind of a day. Just got to the projections. Been up though. I was up basically. I crashed for a couple hours after a few beers last night, and then woke back up fairly early on in the evening while it was still dark out, and have been up since then. So it's been a long stretch with very little sleep. So I'm looking forward to a nap after lock tonight. And then we'll probably repeat the process, get some football stuff done, be up all weekend for football as usual. Looks like an interesting football weekend too. People were asking. We will definitely have projections and content up on the site for football as usual. I don't know if there will be a show or not. Depends on how I'm feeling about it, how timing looks and all of that. But definitely projections will be up. I'm sure I'll do a groups article. I'm sure I'll do a above below for any full slates. Looks like we got some crazy weather situations. The Baltimore game, the KC game. KC is going to be, apparently the feels like temperature is going to be negative 30 below, which should be interesting for football. And then a ton of wind and also cold weather environment in the Buffalo game. So should be pretty interesting for a couple of games there. But we'll take a look through everything, get all of that up on the site. But for now, we're here to talk basketball. We're here to talk about the little four-gamer today. Cops are going by outside. Let me get that right in. Dial that in right there. I feel like the Jersey in my voice is coming out a little bit more today. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. It's because I've been watching The Sopranos marathon on HBO for the last 6 days in a row. They're on the last second half of the last season right now. It's probably why. I just feel like I was hitting a little harder than it might normally come out in my voice. So, as you can see, there's a lot of Dallas on the top of the board today. Not very surprising considering no Luka. So as we know, that's going to just spread out a lot of opportunity to Timmy Hardaway, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie probably, the best if you just have to pick a guy in a vacuum who's going to go out there and put up a monster score for you. It's obviously Kyrie. But Timmy's got some pretty clear upside today. Jaden Hardy presumably stepping into a decent chunk of minutes here, but is very capable. Out of the three, as much as I dislike Timmy Hardaway for fantasy, I don't dislike Timmy Hardaway even as an NBA player, really. But for DFS purposes, I know I've brought it up a bunch of times, but Timmy's not one of my favorites. And you can see it in the the 0.84 per minute, 0.90 per minute on DraftKings. And if you're just looking at that, 0.87 for Jaden Hardy is actually a little bit higher, 0.91, a little bit higher. But I trust Hardy a lot less. But you are getting him at a very good price discount on FanDuel, 44.6% optimal there. And then on DraftKings, he's just a absolute lock and load. It almost doesn't even matter what he does on the court. 82% win rate given a 26 and change projection for 3,700. Got him in for 27 minutes right now. We'll keep an eye on any situational stuff there, but I would expect a big chunk of minutes there. Tons of value off the top of the board for Dallas. That game comes in at 2:34. Knicks favored by 4 in Dallas. The first game of the night, the Boston Celtics. I don't know why I had to throw Boston in there. The Celtics and the Bucks. Boston versus Milwaukee for any of the geographically challenged out there. 2.5 point spread. Good game. 245 points on the board in that one. Key absence in that one was Noel Horford. I haven't seen, I don't think, just going off the top of my head because I accidentally closed the post that I have it on. That was the key absence, I believe, in that one. Yeah, Horford out. So going through players that are out across the entire slate. Oh, Exum is out as well for Dallas. That was another thing that was creating all that value. Again, I've talked about this before. It's some days I lose the context as I'm getting into some of these things when I'm talking about it. It's all in the projections. It's all in the minutes, fortunately. But that's where the Emacs of the world come in very handy. Speaking of which, I'm sure you guys saw yet another change over at the old place. A biggie, surprising, earth-shattering. I have no opinions on it. I don't know what the story is, but ship my money. Having his money shipped to somewhere other than Stochastic going forward, which was a surprise. But Adam's a good dude. I like Adam. I hope he does well. And if there was any kind of falling out, I'd probably find myself on his side of it. But I have no idea what the story is. I did see Greg sent out a tweet like that long about it. Made me feel really good when I got that tweet about when I left. Terry's my friend. I wish him well. Here's where you can find him. I remember that tweet when that came out. All in good fun. All in good fun. No actual grudge. I just saw it and I chuckled to myself and I said to myself, well, you're going to be talking about that on your show later. Seth firing shots across Emacs, pal. Phil says suggested Neil hook up with you. He's gone too. Yeah, I talked about Neil going out when that happened as well, Phil. And Neil's another one, very good guy. Always enjoyed doing shows with Neil, talking to Neil. It was funny. Immediately before I was dismissed over there, I did the how's it called? The High Rollers podcast. The one that was that the name of it? High Rollers? High Stakes? High Stakes. Neil's general DFS interview podcast. We had fun. It was we talked for I think over an hour on it. But I just found it amusing that it was like immediately before I was leaving that came up. Emac is fine, dude makes bank. True story across the board. Emac's a great dude. One of my favorite people out there. Just in general, one of my favorite people out there. Just a really good dude. And then in the industry, you really don't get better than Emac. As I've said before about Emac, for somebody who literally knows everybody in the industry, has been in it since, essentially the inception, has been at multiple companies with different groups of people, to have the reputation that he does and be as well liked as he is, and to be as good as he is, quite honestly, says a lot. Just to have that rep and have everybody in general like you, says a lot about the quality of the person, especially in an environment like the online DFS world that we all live in. So anyway, enough about the former colleagues, or the current colleagues, I guess, former co-workers, maybe, however that works. So going back to the basketball slate, 13-point spread, OKC favored over Portland in OKC. 236 points on the board, though. A pretty decent target. But in terms of this slate, that game is the one outlier with a big point spread. 13 points. OKC could get up and run away from Portland fairly easily here. The other games, I mentioned the 4 points between the Knicks and Dallas, and then the last game of the night, Phoenix and the Lakers, just a 1 point spread there, 238 point total. We've got their traditional Anthony Davis probable, LeBron questionable setup on the injury report. I would expect both of them out there. Cam Reddish also questionable. Jabari Walker questionable. Grant Williams questionable. Cameron Payne was the other name on the probable list. And then other outs. I mentioned Luka. I mentioned Dante Exum. Maxi Kleber is doubtful. Derek Lively also doubtful. I've got them both out. Had them out to start the day. For the Lakers, Rui Hachimura is doubtful. Had him out through the projections. And currently, Gabe Vincent, long-term absence. Mitch Robinson, I listed here, long-term absence for the Knicks. But knock on wood, back for late season playoffs would be fantastic. DeAndre Ayton, doubtful. Got him out. And then Al Horford, as I mentioned at the top, out. So with that, I'm sure a couple changes will come down during the show as we talk about it. Let's see what's up on the board right now. Friday. Excellent. That's all Friday news. Good. All right, so we know what the game environments looks like. We can see a lot of dark green in terms of the... it's different than it was the other day. Remember, we were looking at the board the other day, and it was just like straight through these top guys. Just dominant dark green points per dollar in the conditional formatting. And then there was a gap of like yellow type guys that were just, some cheapos. And then a couple, shaded kind of in this color, kind of like, this, but everything consistently that dark, everything 5+. That was what we were seeing on DK. On DK today, it looks a lot more even. Like, look at that, just the shading, or you can actually just read the numbers that are there, obviously. But just for a glance, look at just, how that's shaded versus how it's shaded over on FanDuel, looking for those high peaks. So it looks like it's a very, not necessarily Starsy Scrubsy, because these guys are at different points, but it's a much more stark, you're getting a lot of points per dollar from these guys and not that much at all from these guys on FanDuel, where it's a little bit more mixed on the DraftKings slate. And then you get the obvious. I think this is the highest points per dollar that I remember seeing in a projection so far this season. That's just massive. You don't typically see guys, even stepping into minutes projected up. Usually you get a $3,700 guy stepping into starters minutes. He's still projected around like 22, 23 in terms of the mean. But a 0.91 per minute player is obviously opportunity there. Josh Hart, a little higher up than I would typically expect him to be. That projection might be a tad high. When do I have him at? Four gamer, we're bouncing around a little bit. As you, we don't bounce around when it's a 10, 12 gamer. Oh, yeah, that's high. How did Hart get there? All right. It's not crazy, but that rate is a little higher than I want it. Josh Hart will get call it like a point and a half. Whoops. Moved it up, not down. That wouldn't help us. He'll come down, but I think he's still going to look like a piece of the puzzle here. What's his ownership projected at? Ooh, that's meaty. So I've talked about this. I talked about it the other day when I was talking about the Knicks, and I think it holds true in that in our group of Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes, outside of Randall and Brunson really at the top, and then depending on the day, the price, the site, Hartenstein, even with OG, you've got a group of guys that are going to have kind of a select few opportunities. And the way I was ramming it home the other day was they got to hit their threes. And then you get days where, a guy like Dante DiVincenzo comes out and knocks down 4 threes, gets his hands on the ball a couple times, creates some turnovers. He's putting up a pretty decent fantasy score. But they're not the most reliable, high usage, lot of opportunities, just lofts up my numbers no matter what happens, and you don't get disappointed by them type guys. Josh Hart is very capable of putting up a 13.4 fantasy point game in 26 probably very effective NBA minutes. There's a lot of guys like that on this team. So even on a 4-gamer, I don't know that I want. If I saw a lineup pop up with 4 Knicks, I'd probably be concerned. 3 is totally fine, I think, on a 4 gamer, particularly if 2 of them are Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson. But I don't know that I would want lineups with 4, if that makes sense. It's probably getting a little bit aggressive just for the downside. And that probably stands for, on a 4 gamer, I can primarily still, I think there's enough opportunities, enough combinations that I primarily want 3, but it's not something I would limit in. I'm not going to limit it in the Sims. I'm not going to limit it in the optimizer. So I'll take my lineups with 4 if I get them, but it's something I'll keep an eye on as I just watch the constructions coming through. Plenty of available stars on both sites, really. Oh, but the point on Josh Hart too. If I lower him by, call it, make it 23.5 in terms of the FanDuel projection, same projection basically on DraftKings. Probably drops down into the 20s on DK, into the low mid 30s on FanDuel, but still a very relevant piece on a 4 gamer. Didn't catch that he was a little bit too high in terms of where his rate was. A lot of moving parts on these slates, even on a 4 gamer. Anthony Simons looking pretty solid again. Put up just 18.3 in just under 27 minutes the other night. Got him at a pretty solid projection that is in line with his current season, 1.10 per minute rates. I like the Simons option at 8,000, both guard spots on FanDuel, coming up about 20% of the time. At 7,400, both guard spots DK, about 23.7% of the time. A good option. Not quite star caliber, but like that next tier down. And anybody who's giving you, 1.1 and above is definitely a player at least worth considering. And when you get him at fair prices like this, it's a good opportunity. Julius Randle at just 89, not bad for a 1.18 power forward. Power forward and center eligible on the DraftKings slate, pushing almost 30% win rate, 29%. I like the Randle option, not just because I'm a homer. Emac is corrupt and cannot be trusted. So that's why he's running for president, huh? I see. Phil Still, yeah. I mean, it was around that time. Although, I don't want to disparage and I don't want to say downhill by any means, but a lot of things started changing around that time. Let's put it that way. For me, it was when a lot of the focus started swinging more toward prop betting rather than fantasy. That's when I wasn't quite as interested. Who are you guys talking about with think he's been getting minutes? There you go, Stephen Leibowitz. Nice thought. I agree with that. I hope the same for all of us, though. But yeah, I'd love to see that. All right, let's get into... so I was talking about some of the stars. You can see right in the middle of the board there, AD and LeBron right next to each other. LeBron just 10K on FanDuel, both forward spots, 9.7 on DraftKings. In terms of the available stars on this slate, $9,700 LeBron is pretty compelling, especially when he mats out immediately next to AD. He looks better than him on the FanDuel slate for a significant price discount. 11.4 versus 10,000 power forward and center for AD versus both forward spots for LeBron. But you're getting roughly 10 percentage points of additional win rate out of LeBron on this one. Dwight Powell, obviously, going to be picking up some opportunities, some minutes. Looks fantastic on the FanDuel slate. Center and power forward, a $4,800 just value-driven option. 0.89 FanDuel points per minute. He's played 35 games, just 15 minutes a night. What does the truth look like in his per minute number? If we switch over to Dallas, and we can take a look at where he was last year. He was 0.81. Like I said, 0.88 on the season. I've got him in between those two numbers tonight. You could argue that you could go down, I think, rather than up in rate, and I've got him below where other places do. So I think we're okay. I think I've got him dialed in right about where I want him. Either way, he's going to be extremely popular, and he would just be a runaway freight train if I gave him the additional couple of points that I see on him elsewhere. On DraftKings, he's very, very good looking as well, 23.5%, but it's a different play. Almost 50% win rate over here. 20, basically half that on the DraftKings slate. Center only, 4,200. Definitely a good piece of value. DiVincenzo, one of the Knicks that I mentioned, still 25% winner on FanDuel, 20% winner on DraftKings. Dame, if you're going to the Bucks, looks like Dame is the better of the two options. Where's Giannis? Giannis down here just with a 6.6 on FanDuel, 10.2 on DraftKings. Very playable numbers for the high price star. 12,300 on FanDuel, 12,000 on DraftKings. Most expensive player on both sites, I believe. Yeah, easily the most expensive player on both sites. But you can see it. I mean, there's plenty of value to work with. We want to book, I think, Starsy Scrubsy kind of lineups. I'm pretty sure that's what we'll see when we check the Sims in a little while. So I think getting to shares of Giannis, and if he's not going to be crazy high owned, let's see what the ownership looks like. All right. FanDuel ownership. Excuse me. This is the DraftKings ownership. So let me see. What was the DK number? Yeah, it's the DK ownership projection is right around that win rate. So it looks like he's appropriately owned by the field, by the strictest definition of that. But it's a spot where, given his ceiling, given his comparable ceiling, across the entire slate too, I do think if you're going to choose a direction on Giannis, if you're going to put your thumb on the scale or lighten it, I don't know how you would lighten it. I would want more Giannis, not less Giannis, is what I'm getting at clunkily. Chris Middleton looks pretty good in that same game. Just under 10% on the DraftKings slate. Looks a lot better on FanDuel. Basically a 25% winner. 7,200 on FanDuel. Shooting guard and small forward versus 78 on DraftKings. It's a great option. 1.12 FanDuel points per minute on the season. 44.6 in 33.6. Give me this game. On this slate, give me that game for 7,200 from Chris Middleton. I am totally happy. If I get more than that, fantastic. But if I get this on this slate, I think I can do pretty well with that number. So I like that spot. But among them all, Dame on both sides. Well, actually, no. On FanDuel, Middleton a little bit higher. Dame 23.89. On DraftKings, Dame's carried away ahead of those guys. Basically 10 percentage points out ahead of both of them. $8,500 point guard only. That one, it's interesting, right? There are good game environments, and that one's got a 245 point total. It's our highest point total on the board between the two very good teams. But I was going to make the point of sometimes just, the competitive nature of a game also lifts the top end projections in my mind a little bit. Just, these are the games that these guys take nights off for to get to these games and compete at the highest possible level. So you also see additional minutes a lot of the time, a little bit of a tighter rotation a lot of the time when two of the top teams in their conference square off. So hoping for good things, hoping for some fireworks out of the Boston and Milwaukee game. So we've got, who do we have from Boston hitting the board though? That's kind of a little surprising. Here's some KP, some Sammy Hauser, some Jason Tatum down here. 9% KP on FanDuel, just under 8 on DraftKings. All three of those guys, just under 8% win rates. KP, Sam Hauser, Jason Tatum on the DraftKings slate. Tatum at 7.3. So it's really just Hauser that you lose on FanDuel. Small forward only 4,300. That's a very different play than 3,900 against the lower relative cap with eligibility at both forward spots for Sammy Hauser. It's not like he's running off with the slate, but he's competitive with KP, with Jason Tatum from a very different price tier, very different expectation. I don't like him all that much as a value play on FanDuel with the way it looks right now, though. KD sitting right here, another high-end star. Another couple pieces from Boston, Derek White, Drew Holiday, both looking very, very good on the FanDuel slate, 18% and 14% winners. So I guess it's just that the Celtics don't land quite as well on the DraftKings slate comparative to FanDuel for the most part. Let's look at Boston. So yeah, KP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 basically playable options on FanDuel. Really, Nobody over 10% on DraftKings. It's a little surprising. 84 for KP. It's not like it's crazy expensive. 10-2 for Tatum. 7-7 for White. Yeah, they're a little bit high against the relative cap, and I think that's cutting into them pretty significantly here. So the Celtics just look like a much better option on the FanDuel slate, but I think any of Tatum, White, Holiday, Brown, certainly that 4-man trio, and KP, that 5-man group, anybody from that group can be in a lineup. Any 2 guys on this slate I think can be in a lineup easily. And then you take a couple of the value guys. I don't know that I want to end up with 4 Celtics then on DK, since they don't necessarily come through it all that well. But 3 is probably fine. On FanDuel, if you had 4, 2 of the high-end guys, 2 of the values is probably how most of them would work out. I don't completely hate it, given that super high total at 245. It's, 7 points higher than the next highest game, which is the Phoenix Lakers game. Little bit more room for Bucks, it looks like, on DK. You get Dame all the way up at 19. You get Giannis looking very playable at 10. You get Middleton at 9.5. Just under 5 for Connaughton, Brolo. Bobby Portis, after completely letting me down a couple nights ago, not really hitting the board on DK. On FanDuel, Portis hits it a little bit, 15.9%. That's going to put him in lineups. Pretty sure of that. Power forward and center eligible. Playing 23.5 minutes a night. I've got him under that tonight. 1.03 points per minute on the season. Hasn't really had a lot of the just breakaway Bobby Portis games where he has that like, oh shit, Bobby Portis put up 50 points tonight, and he did it on a bunch of just Bobby Portis stuff. It's been like 2 of those in his 37 games this year. I don't remember that many of them. I'm kind of not wild about the fact that we'll be getting back there, but 4-game slate, and a guy with out of the guys that are projected in the low 20s for minutes that come out of like this $51,000 to $6,000 price tier. Portis does have one of the higher ceilings, and it is again a very strong game environment. So while I'm a little bit reluctant about it, it's probably just a little gun shy after everything worked out except for him the other day, which sucked. But I think I'll have plenty of Bobby Portis again. SGA looks very strong as well. 20% winner on FanDuel, 18% on DraftKings. One of the highest overall projections on the board. I'm pretty sure he's second highest on both sites. 56. Yeah, second highest projection on both sites. Been playing out of his mind. 1.59 points per minute on FanDuel, 1.56 on DraftKings. I believe that's also second highest on the slate. Yep. So no issues with getting all the SGA you can handle against Portland. The one concern there is the 13-point spread. They get out, up by 20 and change points in the fourth quarter. How much SGA do we get? Does he fall down to, let's say he goes out and plays 34 minutes, just has this kind of a game even. Not that SGA isn't capable of completely smashing that ceiling in 34 minutes. But if he goes out and plays 30, 32 in a complete blowout, you get a diminished version of SGA. The thing that you really, really sweat with that play is like the 26-minute night, right? Where he goes out, puts up a nice but not great score. But in real life, he scored 30-some-odd points in, 2.5 quarters. And then he's out for the rest of the game, having only played 26 minutes. And you look at it, it's like, damn, that was a hell of an NBA game. And they blew the doors off him, and he didn't need to play in the fourth. But that did no favors for me DFS-wise at 11-3. You could run into that a little bit with Dame. So just something to keep in the back of the mind. I wouldn't take him out of any lineups because of it. I think he does look like, he's coming through at a 20.9% win rate, 18.6 on DraftKings. So does look like a very high-end play, and obviously one of the highest overall ceilings on the slate. Just might not have as many minutes as normal tonight. Brunson looks good, 26 and change, 18 and change. Seth Curry with probably a little bit to do. Not much of a projection, 3.56 points per dollar on FanDuel. 4.29 makes him look a little more appealing for 3,300 both guard spots on the DK slate. 3,900 shooting guard only. He does get there. I mean, 8.5%. It's not to be ignored. But definitely there are better options even in that value tier on FanDuel. Where on DraftKings, that's one of your better guard values. 3,300 is cheap. Where you're not getting to his teammate at 37, you'll probably get to some Seth Curry. Let's jump back into a little position by position. Get some of these thoughts a little bit more organized. Jeremy Savage says, Brunson Randall from Dallas, Holiday, Dame, Coach Vogel, LeBron on TNT. Call him with China. Did I miss any conspiracies? Nope. Just no conspiracy chat. Oh, you're talking about, I know what you're referring to, the Discord discussion earlier, yeah. Beantown says, I find it funny they're sponsored by FanDuel and barely talk about FanDuel. That's a lot of the industry just ignores FanDuel for reasons. Yeah, try. I got you. The Discord discussion. Just remembered I had to put in placeholder lineups. Oop, this contest is not filled. Come on. But places could definitely stand to talk FanDuel a little bit more. But the industry does lean DK heavy. That's why I was saying it last night. I do like nights where a guy who's not crazy value, just a regular mid-tier type guy, but starts popping up at a decent clip in Sims, not talked about on DraftKings because he's at a much higher price or whatever the case may be. I love when those plays kind of sneak through the industry a little bit because a lot of sites are just talking DraftKings. Not that the public's not sharp enough to find them, not that they're not projected that way elsewhere, but I do think, there's always a little bit less buzz about really, really good FanDuel plays than really, really good DraftKings plays. Let me just get these in here. Yeah, Steve, it's more just one of those price-driven situations with Curry. I've got him at, I'll look at the screen again in just a second. I think I've got him, 20 minutes? I can pull up the recent minutes. So he's gone with basically everybody here. Last time out, 10 minutes. Same situation in the game before that, 12. With no Luka. 3 games back, he played 20 minutes. That was also with no Exum. So that's basically this situation. The one that we had 3 games ago. No Luka, no Exum. They had no Grant Williams in that one. I'm just looking at everybody. I know that's not positionally. So Hardy went out, played 32. Josh Green played 25. Timmy played 27. Kyrie played 29. And Seth played 20. And Brandon Williams oddly picked up 10 minutes there. I think there's enough to support where I've got him. And at 3,300, even if he does go out, well, no, I shouldn't say that. At 3,300, if he goes out and plays, where the hell did he go? There he is. If he goes out and plays like 14 minutes, you're probably screwed. There's not much upside there. He's a 0.71 per minute player, 0.70 on FanDuel. So it's just, again, the way that those $3,300 prices go through Sims. I think he's more realistically at like this level. But this just makes things work. And especially on a 4-game slate, that can make some things work. So I would have some shares of him. But he's just, he's in the mix. Right? It's not like he's landing at the top of the board like some people, like Jaden Hardy. Again, Hardy I've got at 27. in this situation in that game. He played 32. So we're conservative on the Hardy thing. Looks like I'm still about, while being almost a full 1/10 of a point above his current fantasy production in terms of the rate. It looks like I'm still like 2.5 points lower than other places. So Jaden Hardy, by all accounts, would only be a better play than what I'm showing here, is what I'm trying to say. Beantown, I just did the entire Boston team just a couple minutes ago. I guess it was just before you got here. But there it is real quick for you. On FanDuel, yes, 13.7%. On DraftKings, not so much. Just got him in 18 minutes. He's been a 1.04 player over the course of the season. Does pick up a little value in these types of situations. Not a priority, I wouldn't say, on the FanDuel slate and the singular center thing. But on a 4-gamer at 4,300, that could provide a little value square that's not going to be the most popular spot on the board. So let's see. We've talked about most of these guys. We talked about the whole Dallas situation. We talked about Anthony Simons off the top. Dante DiVincenzo and his fellow Knicks. Grayson Allen, Bradley Beal, a lot more value for them on FanDuel. Basically double the win rates more on the FanDuel slate as compared to DraftKings. 54 for Grayson Allen, shooting guard, small forward, as compared to 57 on DraftKings, same positioning. 16% winner, very playable on DraftKings. 13% winner for Bradley Beal, also very playable. But site to site, these guys are kind of priorities on FanDuel, where they're just kind of also runs on DraftKings. Devin Booker in that same offense? Not at all. Just a 2% winner on FanDuel at 9,600. At 8,900 on DraftKings, he looks fantastic. 12% winner for a guy with that kind of a ceiling, 1.28 DraftKings points per minute. Ball in his hands quite a bit. They're figuring things out, I think, with all three of Beal, Book, and KD out there. So the rates will normalize over time, but I like the spot for Booker on DraftKings. Austin Reeves just kind of coming through as who he is, 6,900, small forward shooting guard, 16% winner on FanDuel. A little bit worse than that, but still very playable on DraftKings at 69, both guard spots. Middleton, I talked about. Scoot Henderson, 6.8% on FanDuel versus 8.2% on DraftKings. Playable piece. I think probably fairly priced, maybe a little high. 6,400 for a 0.81 player, 6,000 for a 0.86. Maybe a little bit high. Let's see, who's comparable? I mean, his teammate Shaden Sharp for 54, you're getting 0.88, but what's 3? That's Isaiah Joe, not enough minutes there. Yeah, it's not really a great comp. Well, the point is, it feels a little high. And there you go. It maths out a little high. 3.98 points per dollar. On DraftKings, 4.57. But again, on DraftKings, this fits in more with the nature of this puzzle. That's one way to do it. This is guards only. Let me take the relevant guards only, which is going to be annoying because they're sorted in different order. Yeah, screw it. I'll just do everybody. Counting everybody. Average of 3.85 points per dollar on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, 4.16. Which is opposite of what I was expecting. I think we've just got a couple lower spots. Never mind that exercise. We'll go from here up. 4.44. 4.86. That 7 is killing it. I'm not going to sit here and just continue averaging these things to try and make that clunky point. Forget what I was saying. Scoot Henderson definitely is playable, but not a great option. Not a top priority by any means. Josh Giddey falls into that same bucket. Right around the same rates, same numbers, similar pricing, similar positioning. 6,800 is a little bit more expensive. 3.95 points per dollar. 4.33, you're getting fewer points per dollar out of Josh Giddey than Scoot Henderson across both sides. So if I don't like Scoot, I don't really like Josh. And then in 24 minutes at 3.11 points per dollar, 3.94 across down on DraftKings, you really can't like Shaden Sharp all that much. He definitely plays. All three of those guys, playable options. They're just kind of those rotation pieces around the true, the good chalk, the good plays of the day. If those guys fall into a handful of lineups, so be it. They're perfectly fine, but they're not priorities. Derek White and Drew Holiday, definitely priorities on FanDuel. I would prioritize them a little bit more on DraftKings than what these win rates suggest, especially 4-gamer. We're just booking a little bit of points per minute. We're booking a little bit of ceiling in that game, and we're booking the best overall game environment of the day. So I have no issues with pushing, ownership or exposure that's double or more these win rates on those two guys. And probably would want to get more of them than Scoot, Giddey, Sharp, Reeves, Grayson Allen, probably. Although once we start getting out to 3 times the win rate, I probably shouldn't be saying that. That's a little bit high. So Grayson Allen maybe would be the cutoff. And then I would want more Beal and Booker, more Middleton than those guys given the higher win rates. Quentin Grimes definitely falls into that bucket of Knicks where it's just, be cautious with getting overexposed to a low usage guy. 13.9% usage rate. Needs to knock down those threes to have any hope of having this kind of a night. 21 minutes, 30.3 FanDuel points. That's a good outing from Quentin Grimes. And he can do that if he goes out. It's the same situation as what I said about DiVincenzo. If he goes out and knocks down a couple threes, gets his hands on the ball and creates a couple turnovers, you're getting there. That is very... hit and miss. Very, very variable. But I do think he's got a little bit of value, just under a 12% win rate on FanDuel. About half that on DraftKings, 5.43%. But again, 0.62 points per minute on FanDuel, 0.64 on DraftKings. 3.43 points per dollar, 3.50 on DraftKings. So buyer beware with Quentin Grimes, but he's one of the plays that's in the mix for value. Jalen, obviously super playable in that just I'm a high-end NBA player. You can put me into a lineup anytime. And he's not criminally overpriced. He's a couple $100 probably high. 7.28% win rate on FanDuel, though. On DraftKings, 3.7. Definitely playable. There's definitely ceiling there. 1.10 FanDuel points per minute on the season, 1.13 on DraftKings. Looking side to side, that's most of the DraftKings plays. I don't know that you're really getting any Eric Gordon. You can take a little. 2% win rate is playable, but kind of bottom end unless something changes. On FanDuel, you do have Peyton Pritchard popping there at a little 12.8%, hiding down toward the bottom of the board, 4,600, 21-minute projected, 0.81 per minute. Got to watch out for that. 16.4 minutes the other night, 5.7 FanDuel points. I think that was a night I had him in some lineups. Otherwise, nobody really. I guess Malik Beasley hitting it a little as well on FanDuel. 8.5% win rate. Put up 30 in 24 minutes, stepping into some opportunity the other night. Not really exploding up the board, but he'll probably be in the mix for some shares. Jump to forward. Take a sip of my iced tea. There you go, Tiz. Tiz likes the zinger. Porzingis should be well rested after sitting yesterday. Hopefully, dude's locked in. Got him and Drew in my single entry. I like both of those guys. No issues there. Oh, Stephen Leibowitz, thanks. I like you too, buddy. I like you more than Steph Curry too. I assume you're talking about Deuce McBride. See, I don't know about that one. That's where I kind of lean more toward your thinking on Seth, where probably not the minutes. Got him at 14 tonight. Going back to the last handful. It's weird with Deuce. He's not by any means like in the doghouse with Tibbs or anything like that. He plays very hard-nosed defense. Tibbs likes him because of that. But it is still, he is, down the bench, down the pecking order. He's not Ryan Arcidiacono, but he's probably the next man up from Archie. So a lot of things got to break right for McBride to play more than 20 minutes. He played 22 the last time out, but the 4 games before that, 13, 15, 10, and 7. And, one of those games, I forget which one, he came out and hit 4 threes in the first half. And then I don't think Tibbs put him back in the game in the second half. So you just have to worry about that. Even on a night where he comes out cooking, Tibbs can clip his wings a little bit. The price is fine, 3,700. I wouldn't not play him across a bunch of lineups. If I was building one, I'd probably lean Seth, at least how things are stacked up right now. Of course, you could just spend 400 more and go to Jaden Hardy and ignore them both. So, a lot of options. Trey, I touched on Quentin Grimes just a minute ago. Pretty sure you were here for it. If not, let me know. It's the same situation as with all those Knicks. And that's going to be to remain my read on those guys. Yeah, you're all right. I figured. But that's going to be the read on these Knicks going forward, at least for a while. So let's see. Forwards. Speaking of forward momentum on this show. Here we go. Timmy off the top. Josh Hart off the top. Derek Jones. Julius Randle. We've got a theme between Dallas and New York, and fortunately, they're playing each other. Going to be a lot of these guys in lineups. What time does that game start compared to everything else? 7:30 for Boston, Milwaukee. Then 8 o'clock Portland, OKC. 8:30 Knicks and Dallas, and then an hour and a half till the Phoenix and the Lakers game starts. So that'll be a fun first 3 game sprint. And I tell you what, there's going to be a lot of ownership going through those first 3 games. So that just makes that saving some shares for Phoenix and LA, especially with some of the high-end stars in those games, I think definitely makes some sense. Saving some just, not that there's a ton of room to swap around with only one game there, but with guys at a variety of prices in that game, I do think there will be some flexibility to pivot around if that's your approach. So just something to consider with those first 3 games all starting within an hour. It is cool that they're each staggered by a half hour. That should be fun. But yeah, lots going to be going through that New York and Dallas game for sure. Who have we not touched on? So I talked about these 2. Again, it's the typical routine. AD probable, LeBron questionable. Let's see if anything's changed since I'm mentioning injuries. They'll both most likely be out there. Campaign available, which is good because we had him in. He was probable. I think that's the only update. Yeah, looks like that's the only update. So I'm perfectly happy getting either LeBron or AD into a bunch of lineups. I'd like to have shares of both of them in some lineups and then one or the other in a lot of lineups. I think they both look good. 22.3% win rate for LeBron. Prefer him on FanDuel. Slight preference for AD on DraftKings, but it's very, very close over there. They both look terrific on DraftKings, and I really, again, like that 9,700. If I can just buy LeBron's ceiling every day for under 10K on the DraftKings slate, I think I'm happy about that. So I have no issues going to either one of the Lakers, and I have no issues with both of them in the same lineup. I think there's plenty of opportunity for them both to eat. The guy I don't know how much I want of, and I don't remember mentioning his name at all at the guard spot, or again, going backward here. There he is. D'Lo, hiding way down here. D'Lo playing his way out of LA. 26-minute projection tonight. Mediocre. He's playable, barely. 2.6% winner on FanDuel. On DraftKings at 63, point guard only. 0.03. Knock yourself out, but I would not have a lot of D'Lo tonight. Not on either side, really. Just given the way things are trending. Here's KP. Somebody just mentioned him before. 9.3% winner on FanDuel. 7.9% on DraftKings. Perfectly fine. Get to him at those rates given that price. That's not a bad option. Especially, again, 4-game slate. Power forward and center eligible on both sides, so you get nice flexibility out of them. And among guys in this price tier, one of the higher overall ceilings. He's been a 1.21 DraftKings points per minute, 1.23 per minute player on the season so far. That said, Sammy Hauser, Jason Tatum right next to him. Here's KD. Precious, another guy creeping through with a just price-based 3,400, very low projection. Creeping through there a little bit. I don't know how much I pressed the Precious button without him getting into. He's just playing these 14 backup minutes behind Hartenstein. KD at 11.5% on FanDuel looks pretty good. Small forward, power forward. Again, another one. KD for under 10 grand. I know these guys are getting older, but he's still putting up 1.32 FanDuel points per minute on the season. I know the situation with all three of the guys there is going to change a little bit. But between the three of them, I have to think that KD's the one who still really gets his. Right? Like, Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are two elite NBA offensive players, but they're not walking into the room and saying, KD, calm down, I got this. You're not getting your shots. KD is the guy who's going to maintain, and those other two might take more of a haircut here. So I would expect that this is going to normalize around this level. And over the course of time, obviously, it's Kevin Durant we're talking about. So maybe it's just me, having the years, having the mileage. But that feels really cheap for Kevin Durant. Speaking of me having the mileage, and why I might think that's cheap for Kevin Durant. As I'm talking, I was in the other file, the projections file, sorting so I could look up his last year per minute rate, this year per minute rate, and where I've got him. And I sorted to Oklahoma City. It's been a minute. So KD last year 1.35 DraftKings FanDuel points per minute. This year 1.30. I've got him at 1.29 today. I am perfectly comfortable with that. So I think KD looks pretty good on FanDuel at just under 12%. On DraftKings, 7.4%. Very, very playable. One of the more high-end luxury item types. And he's only 9,600 over there. You tell me I can have both LeBron James and Kevin Durant for under 10,000 apiece on a 4-game slate. It's compelling out of the gate. Just like in a vacuum statement kind of way. Who else is here? There's a couple decent ones hiding right here on FanDuel. I don't love the Isaiah Joe one. I don't know how much I love any of these, actually. Pat Connaughton, Jabari Walker, Isaiah Joe. Between the three, I don't know. It's probably Connaughton just based on the very, very low price, 3,800 compared to 4,452 for guys I don't find any all that much more reliable. But a 0.63 per minute number is cause for concern. Connaughton played almost 22 minutes the other night, put up fewer than 10 FanDuel points. There's good and bad in there. Maybe it's Jabari. 0.97 per minute on the season, 0.96 on DraftKings. He's 5,100 on DraftKings. He's 52 on FanDuel. Obviously a very different price tier. But all three of those guys coming through at 8% win rates on the FanDuel slate. Jalen at 7.2. Portis, who I mentioned earlier in the show, 15.9. Just because he hasn't put up a ton of Bobby Portis crushed it today games doesn't mean by any means that we won't get him going forward. So not a good reason to take him off when he does come through the Sims pretty well. Who else? Taurean Prince looking like Taurean Prince. Looks pretty good actually on the FanDuel slate at 18.9. 4,900 both forward spots. That's one of your bigger minutes for low price guys available on this slate, but it is one of those ones that comes with an asterisk. Bear in mind, a 0.63 per minute player, 13.1% usage rate. So just because there are a lot of minutes there, it does thrust him into relevance at 18.9% win rate, 22.3% in the top ones. But you're talking about relevance with this kind of a fantasy score. 33.9 minutes the other night, 21.8 FanDuel points. Right around his mean projection. So that's going to be Taurean Prince more often than not. It's not a guy who's going to put a ceiling score in your lineup most days. So just be wary. It's price driven. It does look good on FanDuel at 49, 46 on DraftKings, 8.5%. Also looks good, but obviously a lot better on the FanDuel side. Multi-position on FanDuel relative to the higher cap. That's a lower price. What is it? 3.7 points per dollar. Oh, maybe not 4.16. Higher projection on DraftKings. And this doesn't take relative to the cap into account, obviously. OG, 15.45 on FanDuel, 11.63. Looks pretty good. Pretty playable. If I'm going to play a lot of OG, I think a 4-game slate might be one of the spots to do it. He's been absolutely spectacular since coming to the Knicks. If I'm remembering the tweet correctly, it was the first player in NBA history to be plus 100 over his first 5 games with a team. And like everybody on the Knicks has trended in that direction. Bizarre. What a world for Knicks fans. So I'll take my shares of OG on this one. Might even get a little bit. Where is he owned? Might even get out a little ahead of the field on him if he's where I think he might be. Yeah. I think his ownership projection is lower than this number, which is always good. At 62, that might be a spot that I kind of like. Small forward shooting guard. I don't have the DK. Oh, wait. No, that is the DK number. I'm sorry. So that applies on DK as well. The ownership is right around this level. And for 61, both forward spots, I think that's an interesting opportunity to maybe grab some shares of OG on this one. Now I do want to see his FanDuel ownership, though. 6 o'clock, not frantic yet because it's a 7:30 start, so do need to speed things along so I can get things updated and still build my lineups, though. Yeah, same ownership on FanDuel. I like that. I like that opportunity for OG. It's not, well, this one I already lowered, so that's a bad example. It's not like go out like one of these Dallas guy type priorities necessarily, but it's that next tier down, and it is a player who can be relatively high end if he knocks down a few of those corner threes. He does fall into that same Knicks trap of got to hit some of those threes. That's really all of these guys. They've got a type. Giannis, Middleton, both look very, very good on DraftKings. 10.28 for Giannis, 9.72 for Middleton, obviously from two very different price points. Power forward and center for Giannis, the highest overall projection on the slate, the highest overall points per minute on the slate, the highest overall ceiling on the slate. Apologies to Anthony Davis. Apologies to SGA. For 12-3, you're getting him at a 6.6% win rate on FanDuel for 12,000, 10.2. Looks a little bit better on the DraftKings slate. You also get the center eligibility over there. But Giannis is the luxury item of luxury items in a game that is definitely going to be competitive, or almost definitely going to be competitive, with one of the highest overall, with the highest overall point total on the board. If you're going to pay up to get to Giannis, this is one of the spots I probably want to do it. And it's, fully acknowledging that the Celtics are good. And it's partly because the Celtics are so good. So I like that. I like that spot for Giannis. Let's see what he looks like ownership wise. He's not getting any ownership attention. You can easily get over the field on Giannis if you want to. Not a problem. Not that the ownership is in line with this win rate. So we're talking about booking the raw point opportunity when we go to Giannis here, not necessarily because of what that win rate looks like. KP, Tatum, KD, we touched on most of these guys. Yeah, we hit the Portis thing. Kamara. I didn't mean to throw these out there with question marks on them, but it's 4,300 both forward spots. Looks very playable. 13% win rate on the DraftKings slate, 10.9 on FanDuel. Just 0.72 per minute, just a 13% usage rate. Another one of those guys, but he's priced appropriately, not even at 5,000 on FanDuel and even lower, 4,300 on the DraftKings slate. So easy enough to get to for a value option. Not a top priority value guy by any means on either site, but one who's definitely in the mix. Who do we compare him to? $74 for Jeremy Grant. We get a much higher ceiling out of Jeremy Grant. We get better points per minute out of Jeremy Grant, obviously. But those are two clearly different price points from guys with the same, in the same offense, in the same game. 74 for Grant is not bad. 6.2% win rate on FanDuel, 10.4% on DraftKings. He's 68 on DK, power forward only. A little bit of flex on FanDuel at both forward spots. 7,400. Playable, not prioritize, but playable. On DraftKings, you could probably hit that a little bit harder on DraftKings. Jumping back and forth on this other site's ownership now. 4-game slate, I just got to find a few relevant things to talk about, Really, only Simons is picking up significant ownership. For a 4-game slate, this is on DraftKings and courtesy of RG, whose ownerships I'm not giving away the numbers, but only Anthony Simons drawing a significant number, and he's the only guy on RG in their projections for ownership that is in even the double digits on the DraftKings slate. So that makes them just a little bit contrarian appeal. They're by far the biggest underdog on the slate. 13-point dogs last I saw. Probably going to get lit up. That doesn't necessarily take all that much away from Jeremy Grant. I don't mind that. 10.4% win rate. He is owned several percentage points lower than that. So that's one, again, not one to absolutely mash the pedal down to the floor on. But if you want to throw a little extra fuel on it and get to, this with half again on top, 15% exposure, 20% exposure probably is also fine. It's not bad when he's low owned. Just picking off some opportunities like that. And that applies to several of these Portland guys. Like I said, everybody basically at single digit ownership is kind of interesting on DraftKings, including Duop Reith, who 24 minutes, 5,700. Kind of interesting. On that note, let's jump over to the center plays. Eight game. Pink waving hand gesture to you. Hey, it actually put in the pink waving hand. They must have updated something on StreamYard so that they can show me emojis now. It doesn't say brackets pink waving hand emoji. It just says I just see a pink waving hand. What's up, Jake? Jake Swales is here. Sharp could chuck. Yeah, Sharp could chuck. Simons could chuck. Everybody on that team could chuck. I knowing that they're that low owned, I do think that's an interesting little pivot to make and just grab a couple contrarian options. I don't know that I would load up a lineup with three Blazers, especially if I'm building one lineup. If I have a handful of lineups like that across 150, so be it. If I'm building 1, 3, even 20 lineups, I don't know how many I'm really overloading with Blazers, but working Blazers in around the edges in other lineups, one guy here, one guy there, when they're this low owned on a 4-game slate, I do think makes some sense. Arkathelza's here. What's up, Arkathelza? Terry, do you think I'm making a mistake in single entry with the high-priced player in my lineup being KP and going into pieces like Beal and Reeves instead of studs? Arkathelza, is that DK or is that FanDuel? I forget where you play. I think you play on DK, if I remember correctly. KP was looking like a playable piece. I don't know that I would want to say, yeah, he's the one guy I'm spending anything on. That's at like 84. You mentioned Beal in there, who is a little higher up here. He's 7. So yeah, I guess he is that next price tier. Given the value available on the slate, like look at just in terms of the win rate, look at the low prices we've got for a number of these guys. I think I don't want to declare it a full mistake, and we'll bring it back up when we look at the lineups in a sec. But I do get a little bit concerned that you might not have enough if you just go that route and kind of take a balanced approach to this one. Just given, $3,700 play, multiple $3,300 lower end options, but they're there. And then a fair amount of guys in like the 4s, the low 5s. I think it's going to trend more Starsy Scrubsy. So probably I don't know that I would want shares of KP, no doubt. I don't know that I want him as my absolute highest end player in one lineup. I don't know that I would set that restriction, Jake. What do you think of maxing 2 Mavs? Timmy and Hardy. I mean, those would definitely be 2 of the correct Mavs to max. But on a 4-game slate, I don't know that I necessarily want to set that limit. If I'm setting a limit, it would probably be 3. They're all going to be popular, but they're all coming through with pretty significant win rates. Hardy, Timmy, Kyrie, obviously. Derek Jones right there at the top of the board. Even Dwight Powell at the forward spot on FanDuel at center only, 4,200. That's a good pivot back into the center rundown here. So that takes your second highest win rate center at 4,200 off the board, if you just went that route. Also, Grant Williams sitting there at 13%, just for 3,600, assuming he plays any. But I think was he questionable or probable? I think he was probable, right? Questionable. Okay, questionable. If Grant Williams is out there, he looks playable. If not, creates even more opportunity in Dallas. So, yeah, I think I would probably, I don't know that I would want to cap any of these teams at just 2. I don't have any issues with a 3-man cap. I'm probably not going to cap though. I'll let 4-man lineups come through on a 4-game slate. And one way to judge that real quick, given enough time to work with, just set one, go over to acemine.io, our sim partners, and run a sim through with a max of 3, run a sim through with a max of 4, and just see how the lineups do. If you get a sim with a ton of max 4 lineups, or for your specific question, do that. Lock in lineups at just well, to do that exactly, you'd probably have to use the optimizer, lock in just 2 Dallas plays, build a pool of lineups, and then sim them against the pool. But you could also shortcut it and just like set a limiter on the overall. But what my point was if you ever have a doubt of, I don't know if this is a slate where 4 guys from the same team, I don't know if this is a slate, there's 10 games today, I don't know if I want 3 guys from the same team, just run one of those sims. Even if it's just with no lineups entered and just the full pool, like I do for our results on the show here, it'll tell you very quickly if 4 or 3-man lineups are viable on that slate or not. If you don't see any of them in the top few hundred lineups, they're probably not going to be that good. But odds are on this kind of a slate, we'll see some 4-mans. So wrapping all that up at the center spot, Julius Randle from my Knicks looks pretty terrific on both sites. Top of the board on DraftKings at the center spot, also power forward eligible. So getting him in the mix with one of the Dallas center options, put him at power forward or util or what have you. Get Dwight Powell in there. You could probably get this 3-man group with Anthony Davis at one of those spots, Julius Randle at the other, and Dwight Powell at the third one. So it's kind of a pretty good, I'm sure it'll be chalky, core of guys there. But if you just wanted to tell me that you were making this group again and again and again, and then working in a handful of shares of the rest of these guys, I wouldn't have too much issue with that. Now, Giannis is one of those guys that I just threw into the mixes and also ran. But these guys here are 10 or more percentage points higher than basically everybody else at these positions on the board on DK. On FanDuel, it's less stark than that. But you do have one guy running off and hiding in Dwight Powell, center and power forward eligible, pushing almost a 50% win rate. Top 1%ers, he is in 50% of them. 0.89 fantasy points per minute on the season. Talked about him a little bit off the top, but just looks like a good piece of value on the board today. Hartenstein has been terrific. Everything I was raving about with OG being one of the highest end players since the Knicks acquired him, since Hartenstein stepped into the starting lineup into full minutes with Mitch going down, he's been absolutely fantastic. He's up to a fantasy point per minute on the season. I looked it up the other day when we talked about him. I forget what the since that Mitch injury per minute number is, but it's higher than that, and it's very, very good. So at 7,700, he's still coming through at about a 10% win rate on the FanDuel slate, power forward and center. I'll definitely have some. 6,500, still a value price for the upside that he's giving us these days. 11% win rate on the DraftKings slate. I'll definitely have him. Chet Holmgren, fairly high end. 8,500 on FanDuel feels about right for what he is right now. 1.29 FanDuel points per minute, put up 43 in 33 minutes the other night. Coming through at a 13% win rate as one of the few center-only options on the board today. I think he looks good over there. At 79 on DraftKings, you're getting 5.12 points per dollar, a little bit more points per dollar, a little bit less win rate, though, surprisingly. I think that's just by virtue of how good these top few plays look, and more center-only guys, although you do have the util spot, obviously. Nurk, 20% winner on FanDuel, 10.7 on the DraftKings slate, 67, 68. So a little bit better relative price point on the FanDuel side. What are the minutes? 28. Yeah, right on his season average for minutes. Phoenix is, where is he? There he is. Got him right in between. Another guy that I've got just pegged right in between last year's rate and this year's rate. They're picking up a couple possessions in that game. And just again, to bring it up, that late night game, an hour and a half after the other three games start. And with KD, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Nurk, Grayson Allen, I'll throw into that mix as well because he looks like a decent mid-range play today. And then on the other side, AD, LeBron, Austin Reeves was looking pretty good. There are a lot of options in that late game. There's some ownership going there, but it's not crazy. And it's not crazy high on the stars. So I'm going to leave some room. I'm going to deliberately make sure that I'm getting a little bit of this game and leaving a little bit of room there. Looks like the Lakers are the higher owned team out of the two. So there's some room for Phoenix points of differentiation in here as well. The P teams, Portland and Phoenix today, providing potential points of differentiation from where the public is at. I don't know who we haven't talked about. Let's see. Basically everybody on the DraftKings side that has relevance, I think we've at least touched on. On FanDuel, you can pick off Duop Reith. 26-minute projected, 26 right about the 1.02 that he's put up so far this season. Under a 10% win rate, I prefer all of these guys. Out of the center only guys on FanDuel, I certainly prefer Chet, Nurk, with basically, that's essentially the same win rate. I think I prefer Brolo, probably getting more minutes and just a higher end player. Cornette got to get in there as well at 43. So I think I probably just lose a lot of Duop Reith shares along the way, just in how these other guys are going to come out in lineups. But he's definitely playable. DraftKings, same thing, 5,700, 7.5%. Obviously, if you get Ayton, who is doubtful, then that situation will change completely. Portis and Cornette, we've definitely touched on already. Jabari Walker, we talked about earlier. And then, Brolo, just sitting here, 4.9%, not unplayable by any means on DraftKings. 0.91 DraftKings points per minute. 0.98, a little bit better of an option just on a day-to-day basis on the FanDuel slate anyway. 6,500 center only. I never mind getting to shares of Brook Lopez. He's a player who comes up a decent amount of the time for me. He's not a crazy high usage guy, but there's a lot that he does out there, and he can have his offensive nights. So I like the Brolo option here. It's one that's Yeah, he's owned. He's got an ownership number that you can easily crest over without too much effort, too much fanfare, and without putting yourself in a bad position if he just comes out and gives you his mean total. And that's the thing that, on a slate like this especially, I do like getting to guys who, I can pretty reliably count on Brook Lopez to come out and give me somewhere around his mean. And with so few options, or not so few because there's 8 teams in play, but with fewer than the standard number of options available, sometimes these mean scores play a little bit better on a shorter slate. So when I can get a guy at a more doubtful position like this center spot with a lot of collectors of fantasy points, forgiving obviously the Giannis's, the Chets, the ADs, and the Randalls of the world, a lot of these other guys are collectors of fantasy points rather than creators of. So they become a little bit more clunky there. So if I can get one who does give me a little bit of sense of security of at least getting me around his mean, that does enhance the nature of the play a little bit as compared to maybe your Duop Reiths of the world, even though Duop Reith has been very, very good in his limited role this year. Maybe I should have said the Grant Williamses of the world. But I think you guys take my point. With that, let's jump over to the Sims. It is 6:21. I burnt up all the spare time we had. DK first. Trey hit it. Always take the over on Terry in his showtime. Yep. You know me well, my friend. A couple guys we didn't really talk about just got mentioned there real quick with Christian Wood. Could definitely be interesting. We have Rui doubtful over there. Cam Reddish questionable, especially if a couple chunks of minutes open up. Not projecting Rui, but I am projecting Cam. And then obviously if LeBron or AD didn't go, and just by virtue of having a huge vacuum of minutes and opportunity, could get swept up into that. Right now, looking like is 0.87 on this season. I've got him at 0.89 on the day, with them just right on their season number of possessions. I've got him at 20 minutes, 5,000 on FanDuel, 43. He's a much better option at 43, center only on the DraftKings slate. What were the actual rates that he was simming out at? Take that back. He simmed through better on FanDuel. That's surprising. Okay, he's got power forward eligibility. That's why. 5,000 power forward and center on FanDuel, 10.67% winner. 4,300 center only, 9.11. Just in terms of the points per dollar, though, I like him. I still think, even with those sim rates in mind, I think I like him a little bit better, where you're just paying less for him, less need for him to do anything. That 5,000 feels a little bit high for him on FanDuel to me. That was Christian Wood that we were talking about there. And then the other one that somebody just mentioned, Joseph, welcome. Joseph says, I'm here full time. And he's a former Stochastic refugee, former Stochastic member, making his way over here. I assume that's what the F stands for. Former Stochastic, right? Welcome. Glad you made it. Could be Travis. Yeah, buddy. I was just took the first week of the year off. Took the last week and the first week of the year off. So it was a couple days without shows. I think that was you that posted a note in the on one of the previous YouTube shows asking if there were no more shows. But yes, no need to panic. Just the holidays, and then admittedly a little slow getting back after a few days off. It was nice. Not having to rush through slates and rush through getting my stuff done. So it was a little tough coming back, but I love doing it, and it's a lot of fun. So as soon as I got back into the swing, I was immediately enthusiastic about it again. But looking at some of these DraftKings lineups, we are definitely seeing 3-4 Dallas Mavericks on most of these. Right? So as far as limiting it to 2, I think there's your answer. I think you want to keep probably 3 and or definitely 3, probably 4 available. Also seeing a bunch of Knicks, handful of OKCs, some Portland, which I like seeing. But Dallas obviously just dominating. Dallas and the Knicks in that game, dominating the primary column here. We're going to obviously see a lot of good spend at all these different positions. Most of these, going back to the question about do you want to max out with KP as your top option, most of these look like they're getting to a slightly higher end star and then going through the middle. But like this top lineup gives you SGA and AD. So on a slate where you can do things like that, I think cutting through that and going, taking a nosedive into the middle of the entire thing and just putting mids across the board is probably not the right approach on this one. And it's not often I'll put it as stark as that, but I think today, with 4 games available, you kind of want to. This one's got SGA and AD in it as well. SGA and AD also. It seems like those 2 guys are pretty key to this DraftKings slate. The top 4 lineups all have both SGA and AD in them. 2 of them have 4 Dallas guys. One of them's got 3 Dallas guys. This one's got 2 Knicks and 2 Dallas guys. This one's a little bit more along the lines of that balance construction, though. All right, that's not bad. It's got LeBron, it's got Chet, it's got Kyrie, and it's got Drew Holiday, all 4 very, very good players. But in terms of where they're priced, when we don't necessarily think about their ceiling, yeah, LeBron. But all those guys are a little bit lower priced than the SGAs of the world. So, yeah, a little bit more playability. But I think by and large, most of these are poking their heads up with 2 stars in them. KD and Julius, plus Kyrie in that one. SGA, LeBron. I tell you what, as long as you're getting like something like that, like this is a reasonable facsimile for the lineup that you mentioned. Swap in KP for Julius Randle. I think they're similarly priced, right? Randall's 88. And KP is 84. So that's a reasonable comparison. And then it's got directly Beal, who you mentioned. It's got 3 Knicks in it, which is my typical upper limit, but they are 3 of the right Knicks. Hart was looking pretty good. Randall's their star, obviously, and then OG is a good option today. So yeah, as long as you're approaching a reasonably good construction while still using a couple of the value plays and then just using that to vault you to, good mid type options, it's maybe a little bit better than I was thinking. But I still do lean toward I want multiple high ends. And keep in mind, the further down this lineup we go, the less money we're bringing home on the average. It's pretty strong averages, though. It's not bad. Bunch of lineups bringing back more than $100. That's not bad. There are a lot of days where that cuts off a lot earlier. So top overalls bringing you back 261. That was that Scoot, Jaden, Kamara, AD, Powell, Grayson Allen, Timmy, SGA. Whew. A lot of value you guys need to get there on that one. If you want your top overall projected, obviously you get, again, overall projected doesn't necessarily equate to the top ROI, the top win rates, the top anything. But that top overall projected performed pretty well. 157 coming back on the average. Very solid ROI, a 0.08% win probability. Very good chance of getting in the top 1. Is that our top 1? Yeah, that's our best top 1%er, if you want to look at it that way. That one was Dame, Timmy, Hart, Randall, Powell, Hardy, LeBron, and Derrick Jones. So there you go. If you're just looking for projection, maybe that's how you got to that lineup that you built. Just looking for projection, maybe it leads you towards more balance. This is a good lineup. LeBron, Randall, and Dame with some pretty decent mid-range guys around them providing the value. I don't dislike that. Man, that is a pretty decent lineup. The fact that you can get those guys all together speaks to how low LeBron is priced today, really. Not bad. So overall, just to break down the columns real quick. Again, 6:30. This is basically going to be an exercise of like spend, don't spend, but spend it over here at the same position. So it's kind of going to go back and forth. But overall, we're definitely getting a ton of SGA. So I think we're spending money at the guards because if you look down this, it's SGA, it's Drew, it's Simons, it's Jalen Brunson, some Josh Giddey. So it looks like point guard's getting some spend. A lot of Dallas guys falling into the shooting guard spot. Just basically depending on how much money you spent at point guard. That dictates whether you're getting Kyrie, Timmy, Jaden Hardy at the shooting guard spot. A couple of Simons is coming through. A couple of Beals. Dallas guys and money savers, I think, at the small forward spot. Mostly value. Well, Tatum, Julius, AD. And that flips, whether you're putting him power forward, center, or util. We're getting a lot of all three of those guys. You're getting some Chet through the center spot. But it looks like you're getting probably between power forward, center, forward, and util. Probably it's 2 spends, two saves. And you do have to save, you want some of those util spots obviously going toward guards like SGA. But for the most part, most of these utils look like they're going in the direction of either a Hardy type value or one of the big men. Definitely a lot of good options at the forward spot between AD, LeBron, a couple of the odd value guys going into those roles. And again, none of this matters. You can obviously take one of these guys and put him at his actual position and it's the same back and forth. But it's nice some days to see where the money silos fall. Jump over to FanDuel. Oh, something's funky in that top lineup. For this lineup to be that much better than those other ones, either that's an auto play, take it right now and put it into FanDuel kind of a lineup, or what could have happened there? None of those guys looked weird when we just went through all the results. I mentioned it the other day, the one that McLaughlin one that came through when I went back and checked that I had accidentally given him a standard deviation 5 times higher than it should have been. So he shouldn't have been there. Pritchard was at a 12% win rate on FanDuel. That was the guy that jumped out at me as somebody we didn't talk about that much and somebody who's just kind of an oddball. Here's another one of them, but there's not a ton of them coming through. That's a big number on that top lineup, I got to say. To be bringing back a average cash in an ROI like that on FanDuel and a 0.2% winner. Interesting. If nothing else, maybe consider some of that for a pieces of core, if you like to think of things in terms of core. Getting to Chet, some LeBron who we like, some Chris Middleton who we like a lot on that slate, Jaden Hardy obviously, Dame from the high end. And then all these other lineups are in a different tier entirely, apparently. Derek White, Simons, Hart and Hardy, Middleton, Timmy, KD, Dwight Powell, Duop, Reith. Looks like more balanced-y type lineups, although here's an SGA AD on FanDuel to make a liar of me immediately. Also get to Dame in that one. Beal, Simons, Hart, Hardy, KD, Beasley, Randall, Powell, Nurk. Difficult to tell. Is that a balanced lineup or is that stars and I guess that's Starsy Scrubsy. At least on name value. But like Beal isn't exactly, $9,000 Bradley Beal anymore. Or at least not right now. It's pretty Starsy Scrubsy still though. Beal, Dame, Hardy Connaughton, Jeremy Grant, Josh Green. A lot of LeBron landing here. I like the Chet and the Nurk shares that I'm getting at the center spot here. I think that makes a lot of sense. Just given, again, their value as just a few center-only options on this slate, which is what's pushing them up the board on FanDuel. We have... This is like the last thing I'm going to check. There are 7 center-only guys on the board on FanDuel today. I'll include Luke Cornett in the group of playable guys. So there's 5 guys that I would consider playable. Ibubaji with a 12-minute projection, not hitting the board at all, literally a 0.0. And then Rashawn Holmes with a projection of 2 minutes, not hitting the board. So it's a 5-man center-only slate. Obviously, you get to mix in all those power forward center guys as well. But it looks like predominantly just the center-only guys landing at the center spot. All of these, all of Chet, Duop Reith, Cornett might not be. No, Cornett is as well. So basically everybody at the center spot on the screen here is a center-only center. You have to go down to Hartenstein, all the way down here. That's a lot of lineups before you get to a lineup that has a power forward eligible guy at the center spot. It's also our first share of Hartenstein going down, including power forward, which is surprising. Not a lot of Hartenstein today. I think a lot of those shares are just getting chewed up between LeBron, Powell, Julius, and then AD, KD, wherever you go in that conversation. It's pointless to do the spend save exercise on FanDuel, considering it's 2 of each. It's just going to break down spend save at each of these positions on a slate like this. I think the most interesting thing positionally on FanDuel is the center only options and how strongly they're coming through. So keep that in mind as you're building lineups. And I think we're at least putting that first foot on the winning path, as we always like to say. I don't think I've ever actually said it that way, but maybe I'll start a new trend. Arcathel's now we're going to be on my play. Sharp. Shake my head. Damn. Eubanks now with a Q. Maybe Medu gets more run. Yeah, it could be. Trey like that Brunson LeBron lineup on DK with Wood and Kamara. There you go. A little bit of Dame. Trey was enthusiastic about one of those lineups. That is a nice lineup. Trey slinging houses in PA. Keep that in mind if I got to punch out a jersey. Jabari's out. Oh, Brogdon's out too, eh? All right, so we're opening up some minutes there. With that in mind, especially since it's 6:40 now, let me punch out, guys. I got to get this stuff updated, and then I got to build some lineups real quick. So I'm going to say my goodbyes. You guys absolutely rock. We went an hour and a half when I intended to go like 45 minutes for a 4-gamer, but what are you going to do? That's how this show goes. So hit the like button for me if you haven't. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Jump into the Discord. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle. All the other stuff. rotoscouts.com. Projections update will be going up in the next 10-ish or so minutes. Probably less since it's only 4 games. Not that many changes to make. But with that, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Good luck out there. Somebody go win something tonight. Both sites. Winners on both sides tonight. Go get them, gang. See you.